But it's my pleasure to introduce Logan Herring, who's the CEO of WRK Group, which is a part of the warehouse and the Reach Riverside, as well as the Kingwood Community Center. And he's been raised here in the Wilmington West Center City neighborhood. And he's been a part of the WRK work group, creating a accelerated development of the Riverside community surrounding the area in the Northwest Wilmington. The warehouse that he's also worked upon in the Northwest Wilmington was developed for teens by teens and services a number of innovative individuals working in the age of 13 to 24. The Reach Riverside Development Corporation was formed in 2017 to remove barriers of propriety, as well as facing Wilmington's Riverside neighborhood. So he's done so much work, and he's going to go into a lot of details on that. So I just want to thank Logan for being here, and I'm going to turn it over to him right now.
Thank you, Mike, and I appreciate the introduction. I want to put a disclaimer. A little under the weather. I was traveling last week and hosted about 25 people from across the country a couple days ago. And so I was speaking a lot on Tuesday, and just a perfect storm. So I don't have much of a voice left, but hopefully you can hear me okay. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. If you couldn't tell, I don't usually sound like this. I've been telling people, if you've watched basketball in the past, this is my Doc Rivers voice or my Phil Jackson voice, because they're always hollering. So that's what I sound like these days. But I'm going to cheat a little bit. So the first couple of minutes, I'm going to show our impact video, which we do every year. And this just shows it gives good context to what I'll get into with the presentation afterwards. So enjoy the video, and then hopefully after it's done, maybe a couple more people have joined the group.
The work group is a combination of 3 organizations: the Warehouse, Reach Riverside, and Kingswood Community Center. We have a collective mission to empower the community to reach its full potential by eliminating the barriers of structural racism and revolutionizing teen engagement. This alliance of 3 partners serving the community, with the community, for the community, is the reason why we consider ourselves to be very successful.
It's hard for people who come from these communities to necessarily see the value in themselves. So when you're put in a space where you're showing your potential, and you have people pushing you left and right, they always wanted me to be better, wanted me to be great, and I'm so grateful for that. And I'm glad that they seen the light in me, because it pushed me to shine. I'm the first person in my family to attend college and graduate high school. I definitely can say I would not be where I am today if it was not for the warehouse.
We need the resources to be able to change the hearts and minds of folks here. And I think historically the neighborhoods were promised so much, but no action. For 10 to 15 years, nothing was done. And now you start to see the buildings go up, you start to see the houses go up. And when that first brick is put up for the new Kingswood, it's really going to gravitate folks towards what's going on over here. And I think a whole lot of hearts and minds are going to be changed.
To think I came from this small home to now a 50,000 square foot warehouse 3 blocks away, it's amazing. I want to be that beacon for hope, now hiring people from this community, creating true opportunity. That right there is just, man, that's everything for me.
Just seeing the inside right now and the movement and everything, it just makes you feel really like finally has turned all the way around.
The board and the leadership are to be commended for remaining faithful to the vision and the mission of this organization.
It's no longer about this being a moral imperative, tugging on heartstrings. This is actually good business sense. Every dollar invested in the Early Learning Academy yields an $8.60 return. Every dollar invested into the RISE program yields up to a $10 return. And every dollar invested into Empower yields a $6.50 return. At Kingswood, in our Early Learning Academy, we achieved 100% kindergarten readiness for the second year in a row. Here at the warehouse, we graduated over 200 teens through our RISE program, preparing them for their next step in their career or college. And in the Riverside neighborhood, we now have 141 families living in brand new homes, paving the way to 700 new homes by the time we're done. We're helping families move up that economic ladder to successful and sustainable futures.
I'm going to just keep on making sure I pour back into this community, because it's that community that poured into me.
Growing up, I didn't really realize that, things like this could change.
At some point in time, everyone needs help, and I'm just fortunate to be able to give back not only my time, but my treasures and my talent to be able to help transform this neighborhood.
So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Makes my job a little bit easier once I get into the presentation. Let me share my screen one more time. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right. So we got a little bit into it with the video, but it is quite complex and a little confusing. The work group itself isn't an entity. It's just the brand for the collective alliance of the three, what we call tax-exempt businesses, what most people call nonprofits. And Reach Riverside of the three is the managing partner, and then the warehouse in Kingswood are our service partners. We have a shared services agreement between the three organizations that allows Reach to really provide the administrative back office support. So everything from operations to finance to marketing communications to development to safety and security, everything that an organization needs, Reach provides. And that really allows the warehouse in Kingswood to focus on the services to meet the needs of the community. And in return for those services, the warehouse in Kingswood paid 20% respectively of Reach Riverside's budget. We are implementing a national model. We are one of 27 organizations that are known as community quarterbacks implementing this model called Purpose-Built Communities. And Purpose-Built has 4 pillars to it: high quality mixed income housing, cradle to career education pipeline, community wellness, and economic vitality. And you can see that at the center of this graphic are the neighborhood residents, and that's key to our success. And alongside of them is the community quarterback, and in this instance is Reach Riverside. So it's all based upon the original purpose-built community, which is Eastlake, which is a neighborhood in Decatur, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta. Excuse me. In 1995, this neighborhood's nickname was Little Vietnam. That's how dangerous it was. 18 times the national crime rate, $35 million in drug trade. Now we are almost 30 years out, and it is the example that we are all following and looking toward to say we want to replicate the outcomes that they have in villages of Eastlake today. So in an effort to replicate, we've made the purpose-built model our own: redevelopment, education, and community health. Redevelopment, we're replacing, 300 units of public housing with several hundred units of mixed income housing, to also include another 100 in home ownership. We have our cradle to career college pipeline, starting with early learning at Kingswood, kindergarten to eighth grade at Eastside Charter School. And then for our teens in the neighborhood and beyond, we have the warehouse that serves the high school students and young adults. And then community health. And I think we all know that community health is more than just going to the doctor on a regular basis. There's so much more to the social determinants of health. So if we look at our progress to date in 2013, Laura Mood, who is now our CFO, she was just a consultant at the time. And she realized about a year or 2 years into just working for us part-time that my predecessor was stealing money from the organization. Concurrently, Charlie McDowell had discovered the purpose-built communities model and read about it and was interested because of his time serving as the board chair at Eastside Charter School. And Charlie, I know you're on and you're multitasking, but just let me know if you wanted to jump in and provide any historical context. Just let me know at any point. And so, Charlie, are you there?
Well, I'm here, but you're doing just fine. You keep going.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, after reading about Purpose Built, he recruited the mayor. He recruited Mike Przicki, who wasn't the mayor at the time, obviously. He recruited Rob Buccini and the head of the housing authority in Wilmington to go down to check out this project. And what he realized was that the community was the unit of change, not the school. And if we could really change the environment in the community and uplift the community, the school would do so much better. And so he got to work socializing it, excuse me. And in 2016, I came to Kingswood Community Center to serve as the interim executive director to try to turn around an organization that a year prior had missed payroll and was really about to close its doors. It took us about 2 years to stabilize Kingswood. And after doing that, we were able to use Kingswood as the foundation to kind of give birth to Reach Riverside and the warehouse and really catalyze those efforts. The warehouse was born out of the need to address the teen population in Riverside and the city of Wilmington, given the high violence rates that the teens were experiencing, the city of Wilmington was experiencing by teens in 2015, 2016. And then Reach Riverside again to accomplish delivering the purpose-built model. And that was essentially the beginning of the work group. In 2019, we set out to start our capital campaign to raise what fundraising consultants, after doing a feasibility, told us we could raise $20 million. In the state of Delaware, when they told us that, we looked at each other and scoffed because, you know, you just don't raise that type of money here in Delaware. And hey, when we said that, they actually doubled down and said that they believe we could raise up to 25 million and over a 5-year period. We just reached that 5-year period this month of November, and we are now at $315 million invested into the Riverside neighborhood. So I say we exceeded that goal slightly.
Slightly.
Since then, we've also we opened the warehouse officially in August of 2021. We have more than a third of the teen population of the city of Wilmington registered at the warehouse. We built 141 homes between the first 2 phases of housing. We won a federal grant from HUD at $50 million. The Eastside Charter School STEM Hub will open in January, and it'll be done construction next month. And we have just signed up to deliver our first 10 units of home ownership in addition to the rental homes that we have built as well. And yesterday, we just closed on phase 3 of the housing. So we'll begin construction on that if they didn't today, either tomorrow or the next day or so, on the next 101 units in phase 3. On this slide, you see some photos of the warehouse, but more importantly, you see the photos of the people that make the warehouse possible, which are our teens. In the upper left-hand corner, these are the teens that helped design the building, the programming, and they really established the culture at the warehouse. And these teens here are our existing teen executive committee, and they help us run the building year-round, and we pay them to do so. Our flagship program at the warehouse is RISE. It's a workforce training program for ages 14 to 24, where through that 12 weeks, they get access to soft skill support, making sure they know about customer service, financial literacy, um, social emotional learning, everything you need to know to be a successful employee no matter where you go. But then they also get the opportunity to experience a career for several weeks in a field of their choosing. And they come back confident, well spoken, and we support not only teens that are in school, but teens who have also maybe not finished school for some type of barrier like teenage pregnancy or homelessness. Excuse me, one second. Sorry, I have two boys, and I can tell that one of them is bouncing the ball right now. And they're supposed to be quiet while daddy's on on a Zoom call. Um, this is Kingswood Community Center. Up on the upper left-hand corner is the new building that is under construction right now, an 81,000 square foot facility. And in the lower right-hand corner is a young man who is 24 years old and is the project engineer of that building. What's most important about that young man is that he grew up in Riverside with a mother that was fully disabled because of sickle cell anemia. He had his first job at Kingswood at the age of 14 because he wanted to help his mother financially around the house. And when we produced a video and put it on Facebook, it went viral. And Brian DeSabatino, the head of one of our largest construction firms in Delaware, EDIS, reached out to me and served as his mentor. Now, Deontay's a straight A student. I was discouraged when he told me that he did not want to go to college. He wanted to go to a trade school because his passion was carpentry. But what I did not know was that him telling me that story and that story and going viral has landed him a job at EDIS full time over 2 years now. And not only is he the project engineer for this facility, but he's also the project engineer for the STEM hub at Eastside Charter School. And so sometimes we need to listen to the young people, especially when they are capable and passionate. And what's most important is that he's giving back to the community that gave to him because he said if it weren't for Kingswood, he'd be dead or in jail. And so when you look at the other two pictures on the slide and you see, the graduation of our early learning academy and you see the seniors in our senior center, Kingswood is for the entire family. And that's what's most important. It's been like that since 1946. And with this new building, we're really showing the community is that we're going to be here for the long haul and they deserve the best. And so we truly believe that. Along those lines, we want to make sure we support all of our families. So Empower is our economic mobility program. You've probably seen a number of acronyms already. There's a lot more. I'm known as an acronymologist around the work group, and so I love creating them. I'm a victim of growing up with a house full of women playing Scrabble, and so that's just the way my mind works, unfortunately. But Empower is all about making sure that our families they have a goal, they have a North Star, and then we support them on that North Star. And the North Star is really self-sufficiency and the ability to generate some generational wealth, whether it's through home ownership or starting a business, and or the combination of the two, and even more. So that's what we're doing with our navigational coaches that support all of our families that live in the neighborhood. In our early learning academy, we have been extremely successful in turning around our early learning academy. When I started at Kingswood in 2016, we were generating about $6,000 a month in revenue. We were on probation, and we only had about 30 children in our early learning academy. Today, we have 70 children that are there full time, and that doesn't account for the 50 plus that we get in after school care. We only have capacity for 122, so that's as much as we can serve right now. But in the new building, we'll be able to triple the size of our early learning academy. And over the next 2 years, all of our staff are being trained in Montessori, and we'll be able to serve a Montessori curriculum. The emphasis on the Montessori curriculum is really making sure that we put our children at the center of everything we do. Too often in our education system, particularly in Delaware, where we rank 45th in the country, we have a very antiquated education system. And what we really want to focus on is making sure that we center the children. And when we center the children, we find out how they learn, what really makes them tick. and focus that education around them instead of having them try to adapt to an antiquated system. We are dealing with a population that is nearly 100% low income, that may deal with a lot of trauma, and we want to make sure that we're attentive to every need they have. And so, in order to do that, we make sure that we compensate accordingly. And I'm proud to say that I believe, and you can go and fact check me, that we have the highest paid early learning academy staff in the state of Delaware because, like I said earlier, we believe that our children and our families deserve the best. And so, if you have a bachelor's, you're making over $50,000 a year, which is unheard of. You're typically making a third of what a teacher might make in the K-12 space. As I mentioned earlier, we also serve our senior population. I think as you all know, during COVID, we got very disconnected, and particularly our seniors became very vulnerable because they did not have community around them if they were isolated. And so we make sure that our seniors are connected on a daily basis. They're at Kingswood for several hours, but they also have access to the facilities at the warehouse. And so this picture is them in the gym every morning working out at the warehouse. I still don't understand why the coach does not have shoes on in the gym. But every time I turn around, we're telling him, can you please put your shoes on? You know, that's a safety hazard. But not only are they doing those types of events, but they're going to Broadway plays, they're going on cruises. They're just, living their lives to the fullest. And that's all we could ever ask for. So when we get to
Logan,
Reacher, yes.
it says Jimmy Jenkins Senior Center. Who is Jimmy
Yeah.
Jenkins?
Good question. Jimmy Jenkins is a notable figure that contributed to Kingswood's success in the earlier days. I want to say if I and I don't have the numbers offhand, but I would say probably in like the 60s, 70s, maybe the 80s in that time frame. And so they decided to name the senior center after him.
Thanks.
Yeah, great question. Reach Riverside, these are just a couple of pictures that we like to highlight. The bottom right-hand corner is the ribbon cutting of phase one, and then the upper left-hand corner is if you can't make it out, it's a $50 million check that we got from HUD. We tried to cash it, but they said you got to do a little bit of work first. So, and then in the upper right-hand corner is one of the first families that moved into the new housing, directly across the street from the old house where they moved out of. And so one thing that people always ask is, are you gentrifying Riverside? And I'm actually proud to say that we are. And the reason why I say that is the word gentrification has been weaponized. And gentrification means to move a low-income neighborhood to a high-income neighborhood, but it typically involves displacement. And so when you think of it, you naturally associate displacement with it. And we've been very, very blessed for a number of reasons to be able to provide these new homes and move families across the street. As a matter of fact, 141 homes built, 126 are occupied by families that moved across the street. Excuse me. So another initiative that we're really working on is the built environment in the community. We just had a documentary released about a month ago from WHYY, and it shows some really nice footage and photos from Northeast Boulevard and what it used to look like, a bustling thoroughfare before the interstates, ripped our city in half, and then I-495 wrapped around the eastern side of our city. And so what we're trying to do really is restore the corridor of Northeast Boulevard and also make sure that we integrate communal assets into the community that are needed by the community, like a grocery store. So our goal is to acquire at least 40 acres. That shouldn't be lost on anyone, especially since we were talking about Selma and places like that earlier. And really just turn blighted properties into communal assets. Fed Up, again, all of these are acronyms. Restore is real estate strategy to obtain racial equity. Fed Up is food equity delivers unlimited potential. And we all know that, it's impossible for a child to learn if they're hungry. It's impossible for me. It's possible for my wife to be nice to me if she's hungry. And so, I got to make sure I feed her. And so that's what Fed Up is all about, whether it's a partnership with Food Bank Monthly, where we distribute food, whether it's growing produce out of our community garden at Kingswood, or our hydroponic 40-foot shipping container where we have an ag pod and produce 100 pounds of produce on a weekly basis. And I know you all have been supportive of our community refrigerators where we use those gardens to produce the produce that goes into and stock the fridges. And I'm happy to state that we are now stocking the refrigerators 6 times a week. We started twice a week and they were empty by the end of the first day. And so now we have to stock them 6 times a week. And we're happy to be able to do so. By the way, this little cute character right here, his name is Hangry Man when he's hungry. And his name is Brock Lee when kids are eating well and nutritiously. So just a little cute character that we created with a little activity book. So to teach kids about nutrition and whatnot. So when we get back to the full scale housing plan, you can see on this slide more than 700 units of housing, mostly rental, mixed income. So we have a third market rate rental, which is no income restriction, a third 60% AMI and below, and then a third 30% AMI. AMI is average median income or area median income. And then on this slide, you'll see 20 home ownership units, and those are these units with the little boxes in front, which are garages. And then off of this slide, in another, not far off, that's where we'll be doing infill and home ownership units as well, trying to get up to 100 home ownership units. You can see where the new Kingswood Community Center is currently being built, and then the town green, which will go under construction next year, where the community has designed a walking path, green space, with also a splash pad, which was a non-negotiable by the community, I have to say.
Back to the
Yeah,
map,
sure.
Logan, where is the current Kingswood Community Center? Obviously, it's significantly
Excellent question.
smaller. Where is it?
Excellent question. Yeah. So the current Kingswood is right about here. And so you're prompting me to give you a little bit more information, which is great. So in order to qualify for that federal HUD grant, we had to meet a minimum of units to build. And unfortunately, phase 1 and 2 had already been financed and completed, and they couldn't count towards the requirement for the HUD grant. And so we had to increase the unit count. It's a beautiful thing because every state is dealing with a shortage of affordable housing.
Yeah.
But for us, it meant that we had to, as Kingswood, come to the table and provide a solution. And so Kingswood offered its land up for purchase by our developer, who's Penrose out of Philadelphia. And so Penrose is purchasing the property from Kingswood, and getting really complicated, but we use low-income housing tax credits provided by the Delaware State Housing Authority to fund these affordable units. And so the tax credit period is 15 years. And so after they build it and go through the tax credit period of 15 years, Kingswood has the first right of refusal to buy the property back. And then we'll have all of those units, and that will create sustainable revenue to provide Kingswood for its ongoing operations and sustainability. So thank you for teeing me up for that.
My pleasure.
So when we build a new Kingswood, operations will move over, and then we'll demolish the existing building. Fun fact, the existing building is 17,000 square feet. The new building is 81,000. The new Early Learning Academy will be the same size as the entire existing building, 17,000 square feet. Here's the 3D version of the map. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner a rendering of the new STEM hub that will be opening in the next 60 days or so, or less, as a matter of fact. We have a letter of intent on a closed Family Dollar that just closed a couple months ago, and we will be purchasing that and turning it into a grocery store for our neighborhood. That's the number one need that they have voiced to us, and so we couldn't be more happy to deliver that on behalf of the community. You can see the inside of the warehouse, and then again the new Kingswood. This is my favorite photo. Call it night and day. This is what it looks like if you were to drive directly down to Bowers, heading towards Kingswood. On the left hand is Imani Village. On the right is the historical Riverside Housing Project. And it just shows you the difference. And even if you get a chance to watch the documentary, which I highly recommend that you do, it's only 27 minutes long and it's on WHYY's website. There's a resident in Imani Village who moved across the street, and she said, you know, it's like when you cross the street, you're on a different planet. She says every day I just wake up and count my blessings. And so I mean, I don't. Charlie's usually the one that gets emotional, but sometimes I happen to do so as well. And when I talk about stories like that, you know, it just makes all the difference in the world. And you can see just how beautiful these properties are.
Mm.
And no one went out and staged this. I mean, obviously they did some nice lighting with these photos, but this is what the community looks like. And I can tell you, you know, once we get a little closer to Christmas, you'll see decorations all over the place. When it's high school graduation time, you'll see the signs outside, uh, Halloween decorations. I mean, there's just a immense amount of pride that you can just exuding out of the neighborhood. And for the first time, they have a washer and dryer, and they love it. This entire project is expensive. You know, it takes a lot to build a neighborhood, and especially a neighborhood that has been disinvested in for numerous decades. Let's just say that. And so, yeah, I threw out the number of 315 invested in the community, but that's just a little over 50%. And so we got a ways to go. Uh, I also show this to reflect that although people think, you know, we've done such tremendous work and, you know, the community has to have turned around, at the end of the day, $18,000 is not an income that any size family can provide for, you know, to raise a family. And so, you know, it just illustrates how much work we still have yet to do. And because we have so much work to do, I decided to give us some more work and not this slide. You guys have given enough. Well, not enough, but you guys continue to give. So this isn't me asking you to give, but I am going to show you the more work that I've given my team and myself, and that's called the core. And so I have the privilege of traveling around the country for numerous reasons as it is related to this job. A lot of times it's a speaking engagement, and a lot of times it's to visit other neighborhoods that are doing this work or similar or related work. And this year, I did a couple of trips back to back. One was Spartanburg, South Carolina, and then the next was the Harlem Children's Zone in Harlem, New York. And I was just blown away. And then I walked away. Actually, we drove away from New York, and on a 2 hour ride home, my wheels were just spinning in my mind. And I got home and I grabbed a napkin and I started to draw. And what you see on the screen is what I came up with. And again, it's nothing that I created from scratch except for the branding, but it's more so stealing what's already working, right? We don't have to recreate the wheel. And so what you're going to see today is just replicating what is out there and it has been extremely successful. What I can say about what the Harlem Children's Zone has done is that they serve 10,000 children in a 97 block zone every year, and they have a 100% college acceptance rate for all the children
Wow.
that they serve. And so, you know, when you see things like that, you say, you know, it is possible. And what are they doing that we aren't doing? And so, what I showed you in the previous deck is the airport. It's the terminals. It's the airplanes. And what I'm about to show you is TSA. It's the people that are making sure that the children and the families are getting on the right planes so they actually get to the destination that they choose for themselves. And there's no blackout dates. There's no destinations that they might not have the credentials or the passport to go to. This is going to afford every child and every family the ability to say, hey, I want to go to Harvard, or I want to be a carpenter so I can build the next facility in my neighborhood. And when they turn 18 and they're graduating high school, they haven't had someone their entire life tell them, well, you don't have to go to college. They actually have a full ride there and they have an opportunity here and they can choose. And too often in these projects and in these communities, um, whether we, based upon our own traumatic experiences or what people have told us, pretty much have our journey and our destination already carved out for us. And that is not what we are trying to do. And that is not what we would do in Riverside. And as an alternative, this is what we will do. So the core is the cradle to career oasis for resources and education. And in this community collaboration, every child is at the center. It's a partnership between the work group and the community education building. And for those of you who don't know, the community education building is a former MBNA slash Bank of America office building that was donated to the Longwood Foundation. The Longwood Foundation turned it into a hub for 4 schools, um, a K-8 school, a high school, a alternative school, and University of Delaware Associate Arts program. There's also 7 nonprofits in the building, including Delaware Guidance and Christiana Care. And then the CEB staff, it's their job to make sure that all of those entities are working together. Bank of America has decided to give the CEB another building. And in that building, they're going to put Widener Law School, which is now called the Delaware Law School. They're going to put Delaware State University's Early College High School and Delaware State's nursing program. Both of those programs will be expanding. And then University of Delaware will also most likely be calling it their University of Delaware Wilmington campus or something along those lines. There will also be some other nonprofits and organizations in there, like some additional healthcare that really focuses on the Black population. And so what you're seeing established here, all right, you got K through 12, and now you got higher education. And then they're also building a new construction building, which will start in December, I believe, will break ground in December, to focus on early learning to serve about 80 to 100 children in partnership with the YMCA. It will also have 2 gymnasiums in there, a black box theater, and flexible space for workforce development. So just quickly, I explained the community education building. I took some time explaining the work group, and you're probably already thinking, man, you guys are probably doing a lot of the same things. Exactly. So why would we continue to duplicate efforts when we're so close to each other? And so our goal is to increase the economies of scale, become more efficient, and really leverage each other's resources so our children are at the center of everything we do. And the goal really is to provide the support system that a child would have growing up in a high income household, and if provide and provide that experience for a child growing up in a low income household. You see the disparities on the screen. I believe you may know that you have a 15-year, if not more, life expectancy if you grow up in Greenville versus if you grow up in Riverside. And these are the things that contribute to that. And so if the community is not in position to provide that support, then we have to do that. And so we're really doubling down on our investment in the community to do so. And what does that look like? Like I said, every child's at the center. We have schools wrapping around them, early learning, K-8, post-secondary. We have career, community wellness, economic vitality, mixed income housing, and then we have that national expertise and investors at our fingertips that we can learn from, but also that can provide us the resources we need to be successful. Excuse me. So our keys to success, really, when we talk about this model that we are replicating from the Harlem Children's Home, it's called a student advocate model. And so we call them core coaches. And it means every student, for a 20-to-1 ratio, will have someone that stays with them and guides them through this cradle to career pipeline, from early learning, pre-birth to early learning, all the way to college and career, and making sure that they and their families have everything they need to make sure that that child is successful. The data management, we need people that are actually tracking the data, the science behind everything we do, and it's going to be a constant feedback loop to inform us. Supporting staff, we have to build capacity so we can manage this growth and the scale of our organization, and also the collaboration that we have with the community education building. Specialists would be, we at the warehouse, we've just hired a number of specialists, everything from art to education to recreation to career exploration and health specialists. And those are the people that have expertise. So if Charlie is a 12-year-old and he really wants to take up piano, who has that expertise to find him the resources he needs to make sure that he's the next Beethoven or John Legend, rather, And so this is going to be a significant investment of $100 million over 5 years. But at the end of the day, we are just throwing money away in this state because we're ranked 45th in the country academically, and we're ranked fourth in spending. And so we're spending the money already, but is that money really going to where it needs to be? When we think about our cradle to career pipeline, I mentioned all of the key components that you see on here already, and you can see how they add up to the pipeline from early learning to college and career. I think it was Sue, you asked me earlier the significance of Jimmy Jenkins. Well, Ernie's journey. Ernie is Ernie Webster, and Ernie was the first Black employee of Kingswood. As a matter of fact, he started at Kingswood as a volunteer. And many people don't know that Kingswood Community Center was founded by Chick Laird, or W.W. Laird, who is the great grandson of E.I. DuPont. And as most DuPonts, very forward thinking and ahead of their time. And he brought in Ernie Webster as a Army veteran and asked him to help. And one thing Ernie said, if I'm going to be helping, this can't be an all-white community center as it was when it was first founded. And so he brought Black children in to give them an early learning experience, but they could not be integrated with the white children. So they put them in the showers. The showers didn't have heat. So Ernie took those children and said, well, I'll have them be taught at my house. And eventually there was another Kingswood Community Center built because the first one was in Kingswood United Methodist Church. And so at one point in Kingswood's history, there was two Kingswoods. And so when you hear people who might be of a certain age, they'll say Kingswoods Community Center. And it always made me laugh until I realized there were actually two. And eventually they integrated and it became the first integrated community center. So you see, again, this pipeline from early learning all the way up to post-secondary and law school. And then you see at the bottom the things that undergird a successful community, like food access and the built environment. And I'll be done in 2 minutes because I know you probably have a ton of questions, or at least a few. So again, I keep emphasizing Delaware. We're not good academically, but we will be. When we look at, 3 years in a row, 100% kindergarten readiness at Kingswood, we then look at what we are aiming to do, which is raise the bar. So when in the future, when you graduate from Kingswood, you'll be at a first grade reading level. And then you'll go on to 80% proficiency in math and reading, third and eighth grade, 80% enrolled in college or technical school. And our goal is that, like the Harlem Children's Zone, 100% are accepted to college, but our goal is that 80% graduate from college and are earning a median level income. And when that happens, you get a huge return on that investment. And that is the tide that lifts all of the boats in Delaware. And so we're looking forward to raising the tide of not just the work that we're doing between the work group, the CEB, but we want the city of Wilmington to look at that and say, oh man, that's a proof of concept. We need to adopt that. And the state to say, we need to adopt that. And so we have 5 years. We're looking to get $100 million in investment to prove this. And then our goal is for the DOE and whoever else in the position to fund this resurgence of academic performance in our state of Delaware, to say, hey, that started in Riverside. And so that is it for my presentation. Thank you for bearing with me through the voice and the coughing. But I wouldn't have missed this for the world because you guys have been so supportive and instrumental to our success. And it was the least I could do is to get through a little bit of scratchiness and coughing. So thank you.
Logan, thank you. The presentation was amazing because it's been a few years since I was down there seeing the beginnings, and to learn how much programs and how much finances you've been able to build and develop. So it's an amazing progress that's been built over the last 6 years. So congratulations. One of the questions that came to mind is, what are some of the kind of the issues that are maybe still need some help based on what's going on today?
Yeah, well, the only way we can be successful with the work that we do is to be honest with our supporters. Because I say we have been successful in a number of areas, particularly fundraising, garnering resources to come into the community. And we don't want people to feel like all of the work is done, no pun intended.
Mhm.
A few weeks ago, there was a shooting in Riverside, and whether it's the old housing or the new housing, right? I don't think it would make a difference to you whether they were shooting across the street from your house or on the same block as your house. And um, it has an impact. But I think what's sadder than um, perhaps even the shooting and, four young people and one losing their life, and not to say that that isn't sad within its own right, but it happened on Halloween in
Mm.
broad daylight while our children were doing a Halloween parade at Kingswood. And on top of all of that, in the evening, when it's time, when, the school's letting out and people are getting ready to go out trick or treating, you drive down the street and it's like nothing ever happened.
Mhm.
Mm.
And if you just think about that, that growing up in the communities, that I grew up in and in Riverside, you become almost numb to it. And it's like maybe living in a war-ridden country, right? It's just like, oh well, there's a missile flying over our head. Like that's not normal. It shouldn't be normal. We should normalize it. Uh, and so, those are some of the challenges. And don't get me wrong, it's become less infrequent. I mean, a lot less infrequent.
Mm.
Um, Riverside, we've actually had to argue and sometimes pay to increase patrols in the neighborhood because it's one of the safer neighborhoods now. They can shift their attention elsewhere. But when you have some of these isolated incidents that don't really care whether you're building new homes or doing so much work, it's there's somebody over there that I don't like, and so I'm gonna follow them over there and make this happen and not really think about the unintended consequences of their actions. And so that's, some of the more troubling things. But I would say, silver lining is yesterday or 2 days ago, we were giving a tour. There's a young lady named Allison who's been a parent of Kingswood, I think almost 10 years. She has two daughters and they're so beautiful and so bright. And she's been a part of the community. And when I first met Allison, it was about 3 years ago, I believe. And she was only working maybe 5 hours a week. And so we helped her get hired by a cleaning contractor at Kingswood. And that was, a temporary thing. It didn't last forever. But we recently had some promotions within the ranks, which created some vacancies. And one of those vacancies was the front desk administrator. And she applied for the job. She went through our rigorous application process and she landed the job. Now, this young woman, Allison, single mother of two daughters, lived in the old housing. Her number hasn't been called yet to move into the new housing, but she's been so inspired and encouraged by everything we're doing. She's been relocated recently because we have to start to demolish the old housing to make room for the new housing. And she just continues every time I see her to say, Mr. Logan, I'm just waiting on my number to be called. I can't wait to move into the new housing. And she started her new job at the front desk a month ago. And when we were touring the other day, she was telling one of our visitors her story about working at Kingswood and how excited she is with her new job. And she actually said that this is the first time in her life that her bills are paid.
Mm.
I
Very good.
mean, if that doesn't show you the impact of the work that we do, then
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know what does. So every time we have a setback and like what I told you happened a few weeks ago, it's heavy on our hearts. We can get knocked down and get discouraged and feel like, man, are we really doing the work that's having an impact? And then you overhear something that I wouldn't have heard unless I was sitting there, you know, uh, somewhat eavesdropping. And I needed that personally. And so
Mm.
I also needed to be able to share that with you tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bob.
Logan, from your perspective,
sure.
people trying to get into the new housing, are there any unnecessary hurdles they have to jump over? Or is the process fairly, not easy, but is it fairly straightforward?
Yeah, it is fairly straightforward. It's actually when I showed you that slide of Empower, our team helps all of the families to make sure that they can qualify. There are some outstanding things like if you maybe a criminal record, they do a background check. But if you lived in an old housing, which means you had already done all of the checks and they check on you, I think, every 6 months, the only thing you had to do to qualify was be in good standing with your rent and good standing with your utilities, right? And so the rent, we can work that out with the Wilmington Housing Authority. But the utilities, that's a regulated company. We couldn't do much there. But that's not true because we can always do something if we're creative, right? And we always get to yes. And so what we came up with was we reached out to Stepping Stones Federal Credit Union, and each one of the organizations of the work group put up $25,000 to guarantee microloans to the families so they could pay off their rent and utilities. And for a low interest loan, it would help them to qualify to move into the new units. At the same time, it also helps them build their credit. And so I can say that we've been doing this for a couple of years now, and there's only been one person that has defaulted on the loans. And so we really haven't had any issues with anyone to qualify to move into the homes.
And as a follow-up, is there a significant change in rent moving from old housing to new?
No, if you were in those units before, the rent stays the same. The rent isn't based on how new the unit is or square footage. It's really based on need. And those needs, they're constantly assessed. I think they're assessed once a year, I believe. They look at the income and everything and eligibility. Yep. And there are certain units that are have no income restrictions. So, any one of us could, I'm not saying we were all, wealthy, but any one of us could move in there and it not be subsidized. And even those units are extremely affordable. A one bedroom, I believe, starts at 1050 rent, and then 4 bedroom is 1600.
Oh,
Wow, yeah, new
yeah,
construction,
wow.
4 bedroom, yeah.
Amazing.
Had me thinking for a minute. I was like, well, I think everybody would be knocking on my door. Hey, what's the problem? But
Yeah.
Airbnbs.
right, right.
I have three quick questions.
Sure.
The new grocery store that you mentioned, Logan, is that on Northeast Boulevard?
It will be at
That's
26th,
where
26th and
it will
Northeast Boulevard. If you're familiar, it's where the Family Dollar currently, well, it's closed, diagonal from the Popeyes and across this on the same side of the street as Northeast Body Shop.
And you mentioned Spartanburg in your talk. Did you
Yes.
happen to share your wisdom with Meeting Street Academy while you were there?
Meeting Street Academy. No, I'm not sure if I'm familiar with Meeting Street Academy, but I'll have to look them up because I am going back down there. So I'll definitely have to look them up and ask our partners if I'm sure they know about them, because if Wilmington's this small, Spartanburg is this small. I think that's 36,000 something, 38,000. Yeah.
It's a satellite for a school in Charleston.
Okay. Okay.
So I was just curious. The other thing I wanted to ask you about was you mentioned Allison, I believe her name was, that
Yes.
waiting for her number to come up. How
Yeah.
does that work, Logan? How is that
Yeah.
family selection done?
So the first two phases, it was really based upon a couple of factors. One was we have a certain amount of units for the various bedroom sizes, 1 through 4. And so you have to match people up with their current bedroom size or their current need with what's available. The next factor was certain geographical areas within the old housing. We wanted to begin to vacate them because we knew that they would be demolished first. And so we wanted to empty those houses and bring them over. And so she just unfortunately did not fall within those units. And now that's why she was just relocated now because we're going to start to demolish. And so she should be in the next round because out of it's 126 and we started with, I would say somewhere between 225 and 250 families are now probably eligible. And so if you take, that's maybe 100 units left, and 101 units will be built in phase 3. Of those, it'll be 67, I believe, that will be affordable. So there's a good chance she'll be in the next round.
So it's not a HUD hierarchy, correct?
No, not at all. Not
Great.
at all.
Thank you.
No.
I grew up in North Wilmington, Logan, and I remember the Merchandise Mart was the upscale shopping place and
Yep.
the bowling alley and
The movie
it
theater.
was yeah,
Car
the
dealership. Yeah, it's all in the
Edgemoor
documentary.
Theater. Yep, the
I
whole
know
9
this now.
yards. It was the place to be.
Yeah.
And I remember the housing units that were there. They were probably fairly new.
Mhm.
And I moved away, and when I came back, it was like the bottom had dropped out. I mean, it was staggering, the change that had occurred. And so what you see there now between Urban Promise School and Eastside Charter and obviously Imani Village and Reach Riverside, there's so much that's happening to rejuvenate that area. And the way you describe it, it is so holistic and so comprehensive. And every time you speak, you'll start to sit and I'll say, well, what about? And you say, and of course we, and I would, oh, yeah, of course you did. Of course you did. But one of the things that comes out of all of it, for me at least, and I think for others, is a sense there's no financial contribution that I or we could make that makes a dent in $300 million or $600 million, but a question if there is work to be done or volunteer opportunities that exists or ways for individuals and groups to get engaged and involved. And maybe we should contact the Kingswood Community Center director at present. I don't, is it still Julie?
No,
Was
you can, it is Julie. She's the director of operations, but feel free to contact me. And I think you may all have my info, but Mike, if you can, no mind, you can send them my email and I'll connect you with we now have a volunteer coordinator.
Okay.
And her name is Chase Conway. And so she'll make sure you're involved. We have a ton of community events. I think we have a couple coming up and we would love to have you involved. And then the other way to be involved, if you haven't come for one of our tours, because it's one thing to see it on the screen, it's one thing to see the videos, but in person, I mean, there's nothing like it. And so we do tours every 2 weeks. Charlie's typically at most of the tours. So I'm sure he would love to have you tour as well. And we have
I've taken the tour.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yeah, but I think what
But
we're trying to do,
for others who have not had that experience,
try to see if we can get more people to take it because it really is, it's just stunning. It really is. And it creates such a sense of hope, which is in fairly short supply
Well,
here
that's
and there.
the definition of Imani is hope and faith.
Yeah. So we will seek to do that and we'll follow up. That'll be great.
Excellent.
Any other questions?
Roger?
Logan, on one of your slides, you mentioned early Head Start. Is that definition different from Head Start?
Yeah, so early Head Start, I'm not sure how long ago it was established, but it is exactly what it sounds like. So you have Head Start and then you have there's funding and support in the curriculum that deals with younger children, or early Head Start. And so it's kind of an extension of Head Start, but we have that program at Kingswood. It's one of the mechanisms or levers that we pull in addition to a number of others that provides us with a certain amount of seats that are funded for our children who really can't afford that type of quality education. And so what we do is we kind of braid or stack those programs and funding mechanisms on top of each other to give them that world-class academic experience at such a young age. So hopefully that answers. I did the best I could. It's not my wheelhouse, but I think I did it somewhat justice.
Well, I think the early education is one of the reasons that you've got this, what did you say, 45th in education and 4th in spending, because if we you got to put more money in early, and I think you get reap rewards later.
Yeah, only 90% of the brain is developed before the age of 5.
Yeah.
I mean,
We should be able to figure this out.
Yeah.
Now,
Just saying.
and Governor Carney has done a tremendous job of putting more money in early learning, but we're not making a dent. So we got to continue to invest and invest and invest. We really need universal pre-K, and when I say pre-K, at least going down to age 3.
Yeah.
You know, that's the way it's got to be done. We have too many children that don't go to school or don't get any type of education until they go to kindergarten, and they're just way behind. Charlie, I see you coming off mute.
Yeah, so Matt Myers got a 26-page education plan on his website, and among the things that he wants to
Charlie wrote 24 pages of it.
I didn't write. I didn't write. I
Good
didn't
job,
write any of
Charlie.
it. I didn't write any of it. But I was just going to piggyback on that comment about early learning, because one of his to-dos is to have universal pre-K by the end of his first term. Universal.
I vote for that.
Yeah, provided
Yeah,
free.
yeah.
You know, free pre-K.
And Matt Meyer, I'm piggybacking off of Charlie's comment. Matt Meyer was an educator. He was a teacher at Prestige Academy, which is now the building that is the warehouse. So when he comes in, he's like, my classroom was right here. I taught math right here. So it's pretty cool.
Well, thank you, Logan. I'm so sorry you're not feeling well. I hope you're much, much better tomorrow. We really
Thank
do
you.
so appreciate your taking the time. You do so much, and you're here, there, and everywhere. But the lives that you're impacting and the changes that are happening, the children who will live full, meaningful lives as a result of this work, and the ways that families are supported and kept together. It's just an extraordinary gift, and we are so grateful for your work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys for being so supportive.
Thank you,
So
Logan.
much.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Well done.
All right. Happy Thanksgiving. Good night, all.
Good night.
Night.